All right. Welcome to Ambition Office Hours. This is a little unique. Usually our customer success team or a member of our customer success team runs this, but today I'm going to take the reins. They gracefully let me take the reins. I'm Travis Truitt, founder and CEO of Ambition. And what I figured I would do today is walk you through a little bit of how we're thinking about what has happened in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the world certainly feels a little bit different today than it did 3 weeks ago. So a little bit of insight pulling the covers back into how we've addressed that as a team, or at least how we're communicating it. And then I'm going to walk you through what we're doing about it, because ultimately, I'm a big believer that adversity breeds greatness. And I think there's a big opportunity for us to, again, just understand, react, and adapt to what has happened over the last couple of weeks and focus on what value we can deliver to our customers or potential customers. Hopefully all of you all listening in on this office hours, and go from there. So in some ways, it's kind of business as usual in terms of understanding pain, delivering value, and doing that as quickly as we possibly can. So I've put together a deck that I'm going to walk you through. And as we see, on the screen right here, this is more or less the status quo. Is our employees, certainly Ambition's employees included, our employees are now working remote, or the vast majority of them are working remote. They are in their apartments, their houses, their lofts, their whatever you want to name it. They are hopefully as productive as they would be in the office, but it is certainly a big question mark. It is certainly what does this look like? For me personally, somebody that, for better or worse, does like control, it is certainly something to struggle with, to grasp, to not micromanage, to continue to empower, to continue to do all the things that you do, but in certainly a different light. And, the fear, of course, is this, like sitting there browsing the internet, on ESPN, not even that there's that much going on ESPN right now. But this is certainly, whether it's rational or irrational, this is certainly the fear that, as I've been talking to the market, it's kind of going through everybody's mind is, okay, is this a snow day? Is this, hey, I'm going to kind of put in a couple hours and just kind of act busy? Or is this, hey, there's a lot to do. There is a new opportunity, not only for Ambition, but for, every one of you. And let's ensure that we tackle this, because numbers don't go away. We all know that. I certainly know that. And so, again, a little bit about how we've been thinking about it and what we're doing about it. So this is something that we shared with the team 2 weeks ago. So we had a company all hands. And it's funny to think that 2 weeks ago even, I still feel like it was different than today. Like 2 weeks ago was still kind of this, like, is this for real or not? And now obviously it's very real, but this is a framework that we put together for Ambition. So, understand, react, and adapt. So understand is, of course, we had an open dialogue around what do we think is going on? What do we think it means? React is, what do we need to do, today, tomorrow, this week, next month? And then adapt, of course, is, let's say that, let's say that we really do feel like there's been a paradigm shift in the market. What do we do? And so understand, react, and adapt. And then more specifically and explicitly, we had a team conversation around what do we do? What do we say? What do we build? And do, of course, is internal, but we literally kind of went through this list as a company of, okay, what action should we take internally to ensure we're taking care of our people in our company? Easy ones like, okay, let's put travel on hold. Nobody feel pressure to go travel or see customers or opportunities. Let's make sure we're checking in on each other. Is anybody directly affected by this? How can we help? Et cetera. Say, our marketing team has been doing an amazing job, from Mary, Jamie, Keely, Hannah, Carolina, everybody. Hope I didn't miss anybody. Quinn. They're already basically saying, okay, what's going through the head of every executive leader, manager right now? Well, for Ambition, we already are 50% remote. We have employees that are 100% remote. And then for our employees that are what we kind of consider in market, which for us is Nashville and Chattanooga, they still have a pretty flexible schedule in terms of working from home, working from the office is kind of their preference. So, what can we share that might help based on our own experience as we have shifted, I guess, a little bit before the curve from strictly in office to now kind of a 50% remote company. So they've, again, done an amazing job of just trying to say, hey, this is what we've learned. This is what we're seeing. This is how we've used our product. This is how we've used XYZ other products or systems to manage our own lives. And so again, we've already kind of run with that. And then finally, build. What can we build tomorrow, next week, next month to help companies with this transition, whether temporary or permanent? And build, of course, is exciting to me because I am, my background is in engineering and product. I love to build things. For better or worse, I'm always thinking to myself, all right, like what can we build to solve this problem? What can we engineer to solve this problem? And so, of course, I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially because while for a lot of companies, this shift to remote is temporary, I do think that, or our prediction, my prediction is that we are going to see somewhat of a shift to companies realizing, hey, remote actually isn't as bad with the right remote stack. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's actually some benefits to this, whether it means that you now can open up your hiring across the country, whether it means that you can potentially align incentives between what employees want so that you can increase employee retention. It means that you might be able to bring down your capital expenditure. There's all these reasons why remote might end up becoming more of a permanent decision for companies. And so that is a pretty big shift. And that is something that, again, we think that we are, as a platform, able to help companies with that shift, whether temporary or permanent. And what I wanted to talk to you all about for the rest of this is specifically what we're doing, showing you some new product, some product kind of in motion, some product that we're thinking about, so that hopefully it's things that can obviously help you address pain points, deliver value, and in general, just things that you might want, whether you're remote or not. I think a lot of what we're working on and that we've prioritized, to be honest, kind of makes sense regardless. It's just the timing is, it's never been a better time. So, and obviously ask any and all questions. I've got the Q&A panel up, and so I'm happy to field them as quickly as I can. So understand, react, adapt, build. These are the things that effectively as of 2 weeks ago, we have now put in motion specifically to help you all with the coming weeks and months. Employee asks, we've already shipped that. That was something where we basically were able to turn around really quickly. Then of course, I'll go into each one of these specifically, but employee asks is already out the door. A Zoom integration is in development. A Slack bot is in development. A weekly digest, so getting more kind of ROI to your email inbox, is shipping next week. It's currently in quality assurance. And then an accolades refresh, which is currently in design. So again, all of these things that we've effectively, we still, and don't get me wrong, we still have a lot of other things that we're still doing that are that have not been shifted. Snapshot and hygiene metrics from Salesforce. We've got workflows, which is basically a cause and effect system that's kind of, for those familiar with our trigger system, it's basically everything you've ever asked for from our trigger system is we're kind of turning it into workflows. We've still got a lot of big things, but these are some of the things that we're able to kind of shift directions on and launch. So employee ask, let's start here. Since this is literally shipped, it's something that's pretty easy to talk about and show you all. So the need, of course, what is the pain? Well, for me, being a 100% office guy and loving the office environment and loving kind of the collision points of employees, one thing that I quickly found that I was missing was, as trivial as it might be or sound, how easy it is in person for employees to literally ask you things. Like, hey, Travis, I've got an idea for something. Is there any way you could do this for me? And whether it's, whether it's literally verbal or it could even be in an email or Slack, But employee asks is definitely one of those things where when you go fully remote, you have to be more explicit. That's kind of the thing that we learned when we went remote, years ago. You have to be more explicit, and it becomes relatively and incrementally harder for employees just to ask for things and for things not to slip through the cracks. And so we built a system to be able to help you all kind of more explicitly enable your employees to make their asks that generates a to-do list for managers. You can track it all. And again, it's one of those things where in the digital remote world, you lose a little bit of that manager-employee interaction, which we're now kind of codifying. And I see a question from Kira. One of the asks we got was to see if we could get a trigger displayed as a slide on the TV, not just on the scroll. Trigger displayed as a slide. Yeah, so that is definitely something that is going to be incorporated into workflows. Definitely making it much easier for you to take, some information and then be able to broadcast it in much more flexible ways than today. But anyway, so with employee asks, here's basically what this looks like, is that an employee now within Ambition, they have what we kind of refer to as like the quick ask form, which is where they can, hopefully very easily be able to say, hey, I need some coaching. And, here's the ask, here's the reason, and here is the manager that I need coaching from. And then, in 20 seconds, they can make this ask and they can know that it's not going to, or it should not slip through the cracks. They know that, now that they don't necessarily have Mark literally walking up to their desk like he tends to do, or if they don't have the opportunity just to kind of, literally go to the water cooler and see Mark and be like, hey, by the way, I'd really appreciate some help. I've got a big call coming up. Now they can do that, and they can do it in a way that doesn't really feel like bothersome or distracting. Just kind of all taken care of in Ambition. So you've got an ask right here. So an employee types this in 20 seconds. The manager now basically, and this is what I love about it, because this is something that, of course, we dog fooded immediately within Ambition, is it's a to-do list. And even for me right now, it's kind of this interesting thing where there's all these to-do lists like apps, and there's to-do with, whether you're old school and you're using a piece of paper or whether you're using Evernote. And there's also, of course, like a lot of different like to-do list systems out there. But to our knowledge, there doesn't really exist one for manager-employee interaction. That's kind of this, to the best of my knowledge and our knowledge, it's kind of one of these like, that's kind of interesting. Like there is no system for this. And so basically what this ends up happening for a manager is they literally have this to-do list of employees that are making asks. You can go in, you can review the asks, and you can quickly knock it out. You can dismiss it and say, hey, I'm dismissing it for whatever reason. You provide a reason, so there is that feedback loop. Whether you complete something or whether you dismiss it, the manager will, they have to close the loop. And then for those managers that are really busy putting out fires, like most of them are, every day at 5 o'clock, they get an email that just says, hey, by the way, here are your open asks for today. Or like just, here's any open asks that you still have. And what I love is I usually will get that email, and then I just know that like in the morning, 8 a.m., I have that email. And before I like really kind of get sucked into my calendar, which you all know that feeling, it's like, okay, what can I knock out? What can I knock out for Caroline? What can I mark out for Mark? What can I knock out for Nick? Go through your to-do list, close, act, and then you're back. So this is the manager experience. And then what you've got here is, so I jumped ahead a little bit, but this is what it looks like for a manager to complete an ask and leave a note. And then for leadership, what's really cool for all you leaders out there that is missing that kind of pulse and buzz on the floor like I am, you have a dashboard where you can actually see the kind of the overview, and you're able to be like, okay, I've got dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of employees. I've got all these managers. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. And again, speaking from personal experience of, okay, well, like, what are people saying and what are people doing about it? Like, I have a corner office and I can see, or in my case, I literally just kind of sit in the middle of the floor, and I can kind of, keep tabs on everything, kind of have a good pulse, understand what's going on. With this, hopefully, the goal is that you're able to see here, hey, okay, I feel pretty good about this. I see employees like Mike has made 8. That's great. He has one open, but like, his manager's obviously being very, very proactive. I can see here for Jared and Travis, they're obviously super busy. They've got a lot of asks. I wonder how I can help. And I actually just got a question from Tim. What about escalating asks to say someone else to answer better? That's a great question. And that's actually something that we've been thinking a lot about and that we're getting ready to introduce in kind of our next iteration. It's something where we've already kind of run into this, where an employee will make an ask and it might, they'll make an ask to, in our case, an account executive will make an ask to our VP of sales. Well, our VP of sales might say, you know what, it actually makes more sense for me to pass this to our chief sales officer, our CSO, Jared Houghton, my partner, and being able to handle what I believe to be kind of your same thing, being able to say, hey, I want to actually move this to somebody else. Another thing we've been thinking about that we've been now piloting as kind of like the next phase of employee asks is what it looks like for an employee to make an open-ended ask, and then people can kind of go in and claim it. So an employee can say something, and then maybe a product owner within Ambition can claim it, or maybe if that employee has like several different managers, they can go in and claim it. And again, there's kind of that track record for monitoring everything, and for the leaders being able to take that deep breath and say, okay, I know that things are happening. I know that the employees are asking for things and they're getting that, and I can take a deep breath. Or inversely, hey, why are none of these asks being acted upon? Or why are all these employees making asks except for these employees? And Mike just asked, as an org admin, so as a, kind of like the admin of the Ambition platform, will leaders be able to drop asks to us? Good question. So right now, no. Right now, just to get this out the door as quickly as possible so that we could, again, try and provide value as quickly as possible in this very weird time, we basically just made it really simple where only employees could bubble things up. But yeah, one of the goals is to basically, here very quickly, kind of incorporate it into our full permission system so that you can open it up however you might want it. So that you can say, hey, I just want employees to make asks. I want managers to make asks of employees, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, great questions. And again, we're definitely excited here. I think I've got one more slide about asks. Yeah, pretty simple for leadership, being able to look at all the asks, being able to filter them, being able to search through content, and then being able to export. So, being able to pull this into CSV so that you can have this, you can kind of, do your deeper dives into what's going on. So again, one of the first things that we did as quickly as possible to try and deliver value and to try and, now I've been saying a lot, there's a lot of floor generals out there that just lost their floor. And so what are things that we can do to help those floor generals with their digital floor? And asks is certainly one of them. And again, we have some customers already kind of piloting it today. And, Mike, who just chatted with me, I think I owe you turning this on as well. So we need to talk about that after this. So, and by the way, to that point, asks not to overwhelm anybody because I know everybody is overwhelmed enough. This is default off. I believe we sent an email. If you didn't get it, I apologize. But we basically, we can turn it on for you. We can turn on you for you in 5 minutes and let you play with it. But we did not want to just turn it on for everybody because, again, we all know personally how just new product can be overwhelming. And again, everybody is already overwhelmed enough. Hopefully this will help. If it does, certainly reach out to us and we can get it activated. All right, the next thing, Zoom integration. Probably the most obvious thing on this list, given the fact that I feel like everybody in the world is now using Zoom. It must be nice to be a shareholder or employee at Zoom to think, man, we're it now. We're about as critical as it gets. So Zoom, a lot of you might know this feeling. This is a screenshot from Ambition, and this is a check-in. So in our demo environment, I had a check-in with a fake person, Aaron Thomas. So not to shame anybody, Aaron Thomas, and you can see that I rated it, and I basically said, hey, she came in, and by the way, these ratings are actually new. You're actually able to go into Ambition and kind of customize whatever ratings you might want. So if you have your own 7 coaching ratings, you can set that up. But beside the point, you can see here that I'm looking at this check-in. I'm a man. Let's say I'm Travis's boss. And I'm just like, okay, I want to just kind of see what's going on. I want to see how the last week's check-ins have been going. So I'll look at this check-in really quick, and I see here, interesting. So Erin came in really prepared, 5 out of 5 prepared, but for whatever reason, she showed no engagement and no coachability. That seems really, really weird. I really wish that I could quickly be able to kind of dive into this recording and or look at the transcript to see what the heck happened. Like, how is this possible? Again, a feeling that I've certainly had before, that probably a lot of you have had before, because you can only see so much depth from a star system or from, oh, cool, Travis and Erin talked, but like things aren't really going well right now between the two of them. What actually is going on? So what we are working on right now is a pretty simple Zoom integration. So for those of you that are using Ambition that are familiar with our Slack integration, very similar in that you basically go in and you would just kind of one time connect to Zoom to Ambition. So, there's not a lot of effort. It takes 3 minutes, connect Zoom to Ambition. And then what you'll be able to do is, as a manager is conducting a check-in with an employee, they can do 2 things. They can either launch a Zoom meeting directly from within our check-in interface. And then once it's done, the information will kind of just behind the scenes automatically feed back, and it'll basically populate these 2 buttons. Or if they launched it outside of Ambition, they would be able to go to a check-in and be able to say, hey, I want to really quickly search through my last 20 recordings. I want to tie this recording to this check-in. I just want it to be here. I want it to be on the record. And then, from our standpoint, we would basically show analytics around, here are the check-ins that are missing recordings for somebody to kind of go in and connect the dots. But anyway, what's really cool is, not only does Zoom have recordings, but Zoom actually just launched transcripts, I believe 2 months ago. And so what we're building right now is the ability within Ambition to kind of look at any check-in and be able to quickly pull up the recording and, skip through it, see what's going on, pull up the transcript, read through it so that you can kind of get more text behind, more in-depth conversation around the agenda, and so that you can better understand what's going on, which, again, going back to asks, it's relatively easier to do this in the office, whether, sometimes it's like, hey, can you just jump in this check-in real quick, or you can kind of hear what's going on, or, Travis in this case might just kind of right afterward kind of come up to you and be like, hey, I just had a really weird, bad check-in. Can we talk about it? Digital, you have to be more explicit. Like, you have to have all this stuff documented. You have to have all this stuff as a source of truth within a system. Otherwise, things slip through the cracks more than not. And so with Ambition, what we're hoping to launch for you all very quickly is the ability to tie Zoom, which most of you all are probably using, tie Zoom to Ambition so that you can have the recording and the transcript tied into check-ins and tied into our coaching system, so that it's more unified, it's more of a source of truth, and it makes it easier for you to, develop your employees and ensure that they are being developed, and to have more context remote, which again is harder to do than not. So Zoom integration, pretty simple. These 2 buttons, they don't look like much, but obviously a lot of power there. Oh, and also with transcripts, you will be able to kind of search. Like, for example, you would be able to say, hey, I want to be able to, look at all check-ins that are like lower than 2 stars, and, search for trigger words, search for keywords that, you're curious about. So again, a lot of opportunity there. Slackbot, another obvious one that we've talked about for a while, but the timing has never been more right, is, most offices and most of our customers have made investments to have TVs on their wall. And so this picture no longer exists. It might not, it might come back in a month, in 3 months, for some of you never. So what does that mean? When, you still need to kind of maintain that buzz, the accountability, the recognition, without all of those beautiful TVs pumping Ambition anthems from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. every day. So Slack, again, most of you that are using Ambition TVs, most of you also have Slack. And so we're working on a Slack bot that just makes it easier and quicker to be able to, within Slack, say, hey, I want to take things that the TV typically kind of represents, and I want to be able to dump that into channels. So for example, being able to say, hey, right now, our analytics show that TVs, like the number one TV slide is a leaderboard. People come up with all sorts of different leaderboards. Okay, well, for us, it's pretty obvious that we should figure out how, as quickly as possible, how to be able to generate a leaderboard within Slack. So that it's like, you know what, it's 10:30, and I just feel like it's time to kind of put it all out there. It's time to basically just show everybody within this channel what's going on. So being able in Slack to be able to quickly say, okay, just like our leaderboard today, being able to say, metric, you select a group, you select a time frame, you select a channel, and then post. And it just, given the fact that it's Slack, it'd be kind of very textual, but being able to be like, hey, look, here's some people that are on top and they should pat themselves on the back. Here's some people that are really close to kind of making it. So, put in that extra hustle. Let's just call a spade a spade. Here's some people that have apparently done nothing. They're at the very bottom. And again, it's just that same feedback loop that our TVs deliver today, but being able to do that in Slack, which again is something that not everybody uses, but a lot of people use. So a lot of potential here. And not only things like leaderboards, but being able to do simple things in Ambition, like if you're an employee, being able to set your anthem from Slack. So again, make it really, really easy to just do kind of those baseline things. But yeah, leaderboards, being able to check up on a goal, on a competition, all of our TV slides, we effectively want to kind of recreate in Slack so that best case, you go back to the office and you've got the TVs running and you've got Slack, best of both worlds. But if for whatever reason, you don't see your TVs for 3 more months, or again, in some cases, maybe ever, again, you have a medium to deliver. So that is the Slack bot. And so again, basically just combining, this is a screenshot from, our Slack where one of our employees, one of our SDRs, Matt Wright, booked an outbound meeting. And so again, it's just being able to take kind of this recognition and add leaderboards and competitions and goals and graphs and all the kind of things from the Ambition TVs to that. And Bay asked, she may have missed it, but can this be scheduled or do you have to manually fire the leaderboard Slack? So great question. With the Slack bot that we're working on, it would be manual. It would be like human interaction of, like /Ambition leaderboard. With workflows, which has been a big project of ours that we're hoping to be able to start beta testing with customers here in the next Q2. With workflows, you will be able to post. So real quick conversation on workflows is our trigger system. We built our trigger system a while ago, and our trigger system is powerful, but pretty simple in what it can do. Basically, you can say things like either when an employee closes a deal or hits a metric threshold, I want to be able to send that to a TV or Slack, or you can do a scheduled report. So you can say, hey, at 10 a.m., I want a report emailed to me of everybody that's made less than 10 phone calls. It's kind of like the 10 by 10 report. Who's made less than 10 phone calls by 10 a.m.? I want to go put out that spark before it turns into a fire. So to Bay's question, with workflows, we've been able to kind of take our system that we've learned a lot from and everybody's feedback. I think we literally have 46 tickets that go into workflows, and be able to deliver to Bay what she's asking for, which is being able to say, hey, I want a scheduled report. I want a leaderboard of everybody that has made less than 10 phone calls by 10 a.m. Instead of it just being email, I want that to go to Slack. Or I want that to actually go to a TV and kind of do like an on the fly, like TV leaderboard. Where it gets really cool is not only will it just be for the use cases today of metric thresholds, but it'll also be whenever a goal hits 80%, I want that sent to Slack so that everybody knows, hey, we just hit the 80th percentile. Whenever somebody jumps into first place on a competition, being able to send that. So that's a whole other kind of tier of things that workflows will cover. And then there's also kind of this even greater tier, which I'm excited about, which is basically when things, a workflow where things in Ambition can alter other things in Ambition. So for example, being able to say things like, hey, when somebody hits a 100% of their objective score for a given month, go ahead and create them a goal to do 125% of their objective score. So a lot of the things that you're all kind of manually doing, being able to kind of start to automate that within Ambition through a workflow, so that you can have like literally hitting a threshold to create a goal, or you can say everybody that is everybody by the 15th of the month that's already above this level, put them all in a competition so they can kind of duke it out as like, top performers competing against other top performers. So it's a little bit of a digression, but great question, Bay, and definitely something with workflows that will help there. So weekly digest. This is something that's actually going to ship next week. So why is Ambition so bad at telling me cool things that are happening within the platform so that I can better understand and justify value? That is basically me channeling all of you, and something that certainly keeps me up at night. Is something that we're certainly looking to address, is kind of this elephant in the room that we've just kind of just dropped the ball on communicating, whether it's an email or whatever it might look like. Hey, here's some really cool stuff that's going on. And so what we're excited about, because again, there's no better time than the present, we're excited to launch starting next week our new weekly digest system, which is, and I apologize that these are a little fuzzy, but basically like just literally something we've built in the last kind of like week as just something to get something out the door, is basically an email that will go to, number one, by default, any admins within Ambition, but then also you can tie this to what we're kind of referring to as like external recipients. So you could say, hey, I want this to go to CEO at company.com or leadership at company.com, or whoever you might want it to be. It could even be sales at company.com. But basically being able to say, here's some really cool things that have been happening, and we want to communicate this. So basically the top of the email is, here's just what happened. In this case, the way it's actually going to work is that you're going to get it Monday morning. It's going to be a recap of the last week from Monday to Sunday by default. So it's really what happened last week. That text has changed, but basically you're going to be able to just kind of get a quick bird's eye view of here is some of the things that happened. So again, so these are all color coded. So something might be in red, which is like, okay, I can actually like kind of drill into this. Or, okay, this looks good. Like green, 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 great. How many notifications were delivered? How do I know that, that recognition and transparency and accountability is going out? And then kind of giving you a quick overview of kind of like, okay, well, what is all of it? Everything that happened last week, what is it powered by? So just so that you all know, like, because obviously this email isn't by any means a silver bullet. This is kind of the start, and where we're wanting to take this is the high level overview weekly digest. And then we're going to be adding on to this kind of like breakdowns of like managers and employees. Basically just like, here's the things that you should know. Here's some things that we've noticed are different than what we normally see, or seem to be hotspots. And again, making it easier for you to not only be able to say, okay, this looks like it's running, this looks like things are going well, but also here's some things that I can address, or I can kind of delegate. I want more questions around this. So this is the weekly digest. And then what we want to do is also add to this a monthly digest. And so the monthly digest, we really want that to be very ROI focused. So we really want that to start to translate, like your employees and managers and company did these things. And here's, based on our case studies, based on market research, based on all these things, here is how that better translates to like money saved, to money earned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so again, just making it easier for you all. Again, like another elephant in the room, it's never been more important to justify spend for everything. But also you of course want to know that your purchases are making you money, saving you money. Things are like people are using this tool, this platform, et cetera. We want to make that much, much easier to be able to not only give you kind of like a weekly strategic digest, but also a monthly ROI digest, and then being able to get that to kind of anybody and everybody within your company. And I do see a couple questions. Adam asked, are anthems available as Slack triggers? Right now it is just the GIF, but that is definitely something that is in motion, is being able to have just kind of like the link there. Great question. Kelly, do you think the weekly digest in the future have historicals for this? you think that with the weekly digest in the future have historicals, if what you're asking is, could you generate a weekly digest for like a previous time period, we do have that built in. So it's not, well, let me rephrase there. We did build this to where you can pass like an arbitrary date to it and it would just give you a digest. That's not available to you all yet, but it's something where we could certainly, like, I could run that for you kind of as like a one-off thing for today, where it's like, hey, if you wanted a weekly digest of, like 3 weeks ago, I could certainly do that. And again, the goal there is that all of this data, we of course want to not only send this to you in email form, because especially for really busy leaders and executives, they don't have time to log into platforms. So like this email will kind of be their primary window into Ambition. But obviously the goal, Kelly, in your case, is to make this much more readily available actually within the product, so that you'd be able to say, hey, this date range to this date range, tell me what's going on. And then I can either export it into a PDF, or I could generate an email based on this and send this to somebody of saying, hey, you were asking about Ambition. Here you go. Here's the last 2 months of Ambition. Check this out. Pretty cool. This is super valuable. Hopefully it's super valuable, of course. Another question, when will be the ask and new daily, weekly digest be available? Great question. So asks are available now. So if you actually, the easiest way is if you email gethelp@ambition.com, we can certainly turn asks on for you. The weekly digest, the daily digests are actually, those have been available for a while. We send a daily digest every manager. So those are manager specific right now. The weekly digest, so what you see on this screen, this is actually going to go live next week. So this is basically in QA right now internally, the Ambition. We release on Tuesdays. So next Tuesday's release will include the weekly digests. Yeah, so super excited. And Kelly also mentioned, you said strategic leaders will love the new digest. I hope so. And obviously keep the feedback coming in terms of how we can make this more valuable. Yeah, so that is weekly digest. So accolades refresh. This is a little bit quicker, but so pretty much every customer I've visited has some form of physical accolade wall. And this is just a screenshot from online. I don't know if any of it's like person identifiable, but yeah, like everybody has walls. Some of them are really elaborate. Some of them are pretty simple, but it is of course important as people are walking to the bathroom, walking in and out of the office, walking to the kitchen, to be able to say like, I want to be, number one, I want to be on that wall. Number two, like, wow, like look at all these people, like this is amazing. Yeah, and so how do we help you turn this physical recognition into digital recognition? Basically, you just lost your accolade wall. What can we do about it? So the good news is Ambition already has accolades within our system. And accolades is kind of one of those words where like you kind of know what it means, but you don't really. Accolades, in the way that we think about it from an Ambition standpoint, is it's kind of two things. It's awards and clubs. So within Ambition today, so this already exists, you can build clubs, which are basically kind of like recurring, hey, like monthly, quarterly, annual clubs. Like if for employees that either hit one or multiple thresholds every week, month, quarter, year, they're in this club. And so you can basically say, hey, within Ambition, I'm in the president club, 3 years in a row, or I've been in the 40, you can see here, the 40K revenue a month club. And then an award can be both manually assigned and data driven. So you could do a grit award where you could basically say, hey, I want to give Mary the grit award for she stayed really late last night to help me on a presentation. I really know that it's the last thing she had time for, but she made it happen. I want to give her a grit award. Or you can do an award like, literally an award for the sales triathlon. Like if you do 100 calls, 20 new leads, and 10 new appointments set within a day, you get the sales triathlon award. Anyway, the point of all this, we have this in Ambition today, but we have done, and again, I'm putting this on myself, we have done a below average job of making it cool, compelling, engaging. Whether it's you're looking at this, where you've got these cool bios and these big pictures and it's very visual, or whether you're just looking at this and it's like, hey, like here's some like, award of achievement, 1 million in sales, and you've got all these faces and you can hover over them to see gifts and you can do these cool things. We've just really dropped the ball. And so another thing that we've been thinking about and that's actively in design right now that we're hoping to get started on potentially as early as next week is the ability to actually take our existing system and not only address some feedback that we've received over the last several quarters since we've launched it, but also just make it way, way more visual so that you all can lean on Ambition and specifically Ambition accolades, clubs, and awards to, again, kind of better represent your company in a digital light and continue to deliver that digital transparency, accountability, motivation. So accolades refresh is coming. And I think, yep, that is all I've got. So again, hopefully, I know I've talked now for 41 minutes straight. I appreciate everybody's questions. Hopefully, these are things that will be valuable for some, if not most of you. Tim just asked, would like to have managers to create accolades, but have employees assign them. Right now, it's too big of a pain to reach out to your manager if Crystal helped you and have your manager send them an accolade. That actually is a great use case. And we've got our product manager, Nick. Nick, make sure you write that down because as we are thinking through this right now, we would certainly love to make this easier for your employees. And I really, really like that idea. And that's actually something, I spoke earlier about, we're certainly working on other things. We didn't just, shift everything with kind of this new remote work era. One of the things that we're actually working on that is similar to what Tim's talking about is head-to-head, making it much easier for employees to create head-to-head competitions. So right now, the same flow, if I want to challenge Nick to a call competition, I have, unless you open up permissions to where employees can kind of build any competition, I have to go to my manager and say, will you build me this competition? And they have to do it. And then, it's just a hassle, whether it takes 1 minute or 30 minutes. And so we're actually working on like head-to-head competitions where it'll be much easier for an employee to have a much more like simplified system where an employee can just say, I want to pick one employee to challenge, one metric. I want to put, an optional prize and I want to go. Well, to Tim's point, same thing with accolades, which is a great idea of being able to say, hey, this is an accolade that an employee can award to another employee. And I think that's great because again, as we are living in this more digital, more remote world, all those things that is easy when you're in the office to be like, hey, shout out to Jamie for X, that's harder. And so being able to empower employees to do that is a great idea. So any other questions before I let you all go and get 15 minutes back? So another question, there is no way the winner of an award is getting a notification via email, correct? If he is not checking his accolades, he wouldn't know that he has an award, would he? I need to double check on this. Sometimes things fall out of my brain, or often things fall out of my brain. I believe that if somebody is awarded an accolade, they will get an email. I need to double check. If they don't, they definitely should, because I agree with you. It doesn't really make sense to just kind of have to constantly come here and refresh, but I think we take care of that. Any other questions? These have been great. Definitely don't hesitate. Yeah. Well, all right, Adam, if accolades could push as accomplishments to LinkedIn, that'd be super cool. So what's awesome about that is we were literally doing some scoping for this new accolades refresh this morning. And two of the things that we have on the list is being able to push an accolade to both LinkedIn and Facebook. So Adam, I love where your head's at. I definitely think that is something that we could pretty easily deliver on. And I agree. Like, how do we, it's one thing to recognize an employee with an ambition, but the goal is to recognize them, like really promote them. And that's definitely, LinkedIn is an obvious candidate there, and something we should be able to deliver on. All right, anything else? Again, I appreciate everybody's time. I know that lives are hectic right now. Everybody is busy, and yeah, I really appreciate you tuning in. All right. Well, Mary, I'll pass it to you if you want to shut this down, or other than that, everybody have a great day. And don't hesitate to email me. My email is, my personal email is travis@ambition.com. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, feedback? Again, you'll find that I will reply most hours of the day. So looking forward to hearing from you. Other than that, we will talk to you later.
We will send the recording to everybody, and you can also keep talking with Travis in our Slack user group. Join there. We'd love for you to be a part of it. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.